Yeah, I think we are going to start in like 30 seconds. So here we are. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We are so glad that Leadership That Works podcast has come out, episode 7. Today we have our special guest, Miranda, here. Hi, Miranda. Would you like to say hello to your audiences?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Good morning.
Yeah, very good.
Depending on where you are, good evening if you're in the States.
Good. Yeah, so I already see some hearts coming out, okay? So if for those who haven't joined us in the past, I just quickly let you know that for our podcast this morning, it will last for 30 minutes. For the first 20 minutes, I will try to dig deep as many leadership tips from Miranda, okay? And then after that, there will be 10 minutes Q&A sections. If you have any questions for Miranda, I try my very best to ask as much as I can, okay? Without further ado, let me just start.
Thanks.
Ready?
Ready.
Okay.
Go.
For those who haven't known who Miranda is, let me share with you who she is, okay? Miranda is a global leader by education, by training, and by career success. For those who doesn't know, Miranda actually educated in 3 locations, Hong Kong, Macau, and in the US. And then when she graduated from her uni, she started off as an accountant in the US in one of the big 4. And then after that, she returned to Hong Kong, right? Just in short of few years, she joined one of the leading private equity capital fund company in the world. And then in short of like 15 years, right?
Yeah.
She has really like climbed the highest ladder, become one of the like global fund head. Hey, Miranda.
Yes.
In your own perspective, do you think that you are successful?
I'm not sure whether it's an overstatement because I think when you measure success, it depends on what stage of life you're in. So at my stage, approaching 60, I would say yes, to some degree, some successes, because I think I'm happy, I'm healthy, I enjoy what I'm doing, and at the same time, I'm also financially independent. I think that's very important.
Yes. Yeah, but I know that you are actually one of the very few women leaders in the world who actually had a capital fund. So from that perspective, do you think you are kind of different from other women leaders or potential women leaders?
To some extent, I would say I'm fortunate, and at the same time, I think I have a very, I belong to a very unusual breed. I'm fortunate because I think things happen for a reason. I met with a lot of interesting people at the right time and doing the right things most of the time, probably over 90%. And I have been given opportunities to actually explore different things. So just maybe a brief introduction, I have been working as a tax accountant and then joined corporate finance before I moved into private equity. And I would like to preface my comments today because a lot of times there have been misunderstanding about private equity. When we talked about it, people thought it's buyout, it's 100%, it's control. But when we started private equity or called direct investment back then, we're taking minority position, meaning it goes anywhere from 3% to roughly about 30% of equity. So that kind of frames out, what your tactics would be when you do your investment. I'm fortunate, as I said, because I was in the investment team for almost 14 years before I moved to the top job. So I actually preconditioned myself, with the discipline of accounting, corporate finance, then moved into due diligence, deal sourcing, negotiation, closing, portfolio management, exit, fund management, fund administration, fundraising, LP agreement negotiation, fund closing, fund closure, the full spectrum. A lot of the veterans in our industry may not have stayed enough or long enough in a firm to see the whole investment cycle, not to mention the fund cycle. But I think I've stayed long enough to see at least 3 completed fund cycles and at least 5 investment cycles, and I outlived most of my investors,
Yeah.
per se. And I think on the character side, uh, one particular aspect that I have is that I can fall asleep very quickly, just like that. And it's important because you are in extensive travel mode. And I travel on the plane more than any mode of transportation. So that really helps to recharge and re-energize yourself. And at the same time, I'm again gifted because I'm ambidextrous. I can use both hands equally.
Wow.
So meaning I'm using hopefully both sides of my brain. I'm logically sentimental.
Yeah. Okay. Then thank you, Miranda, for kicking start
Yes.
for like who she is and her special ability to use both her left brain and also right brain. Okay. But I know that your recent interest is having your own firm called Dream Matcher.
Yes.
Maybe share with us in one line or two what is your latest passion?
It's still in building business model, still in perfecting, shareholding structure, organization structure, internal control. Hopefully, the mileage that I accumulated all these years would be able to help small, medium-sized companies, startups, and social enterprises.
Yes, we can hear that. I mean, Miranda, in her own words, she's very fortunate to have experienced the full cycle of the investment. But with those like big companies, I mean, in Pan Asia, like region, but now she want to really use her own like expertise to help those like SMB or social enterprise. But I mean, today we talk about your leadership journey, your leadership experience.
Yes.
There must be something that or someone that inspire you to become who you are today. But I want to start with like what is that story that inspire you to become who you are? For one thing, they will focus on one attribute that you think as an effective leader that person should do. Okay.
Well, probably my second boss in the hotel management business, because I first started, moving from the Big Four to really the commercial world. So there have been a lot of things that when you are in the tax, it's very textbook approach, very research based. But once you moved into the commercial world, it's completely different.
Yeah.
And I think back then, because I first started my career, so I liked a lot of commercial sense and what is supposed you need to work on. And this boss of mine, Michael Lee, that he had the patience to actually, after the deal was done, came back and taught me what I should be looking into. And that really helps a lot. And that's really an eye opener because I thought I was focusing on the right thing, which I was only like 50-60% correct. And then you kind of, adjust what should be done in a situation like that. So that's one of the role models that I kind of passionate about. And the good thing is I'm still in touch with Michael, and I'm now the mentor of his daughter, Miranda.
Okay. I don't know whether Michael is actually live with us. If you're with us, maybe you can give a thumbs up to yourself.
Yeah.
Right? And then, so I mean, even for Miranda, I think early on, you learn that as an effective leader, we cannot stay with what we believe are the right things. We always need to do evaluation, we need to reflect on, we can always improve, right? That's what I heard from you.
Yes.
So, and also even for very effective leader, you might need like mentor.
Sure.
Who is behind you to guide you. Hey, how can you be even better? So as a leader, I mean, what I heard from Miranda, you need to stay open, right?
Yes. I think you have to keep learning. I guess that's important because now the environment changes so quickly, especially in the investment world. You have to keep abreast of what's happening, and you also need to be very knowledgeable. You have to form your own investment thesis and strategy. Because otherwise, you will get washed away, and you get too short term. Private equity actually it's the long tail cycle. A very long tail cycle. The stretches been anywhere in 3 to 5 years would be the norm. But my longest investment has been like 10 years.
Okay.
So you really need to be very agile and be a very critical thinker. I think that's always important. And having a good mentor would help you release some of the negatives, from the system.
Yeah.
And also at the same time, you'll be able to share, some of the insights, things that you might not necessarily be able to do so in the natural corporate world.
Yeah. I mean, maybe people find very surprising for someone with this experience. Actually, she's really an advocate for mentorship, right? Yeah. Then, I mean, the topic, attract many of our audience today is because of your capital fund experience there.
Yes.
I don't know whether I can tell anyone or Miranda, allow me to tell that in your time with the capital fund, you receive more than 8,000 requests for funding, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So at the end, what's that percentage that you actually decide to go ahead? No specific number, but what percentage you finally the company decide to invest into?
Well, the statistics shows it's less than 0.4%.
Wow.
So you have to do a lot of screening, and you have to make sure that you're very disciplined enough. It's okay to say no,
Mhm.
and in all of the investment decision making, make sure you're well supported with data supporting statistics. Your views may or may not be correct because time changes, operation environment changes, the macro picture also changes. But at the same time, you also need to have certain discipline and, as I said, certain critical thinking path to allow you to follow the strategy in a way. And always remember, you have your fiduciary duties to your investors.
Yeah.
You need to have that discipline. You have to treat that money as your own money and take good care of it. That's why the screening process itself is very stringent.
Yeah. So what I heard from Miranda are two things, okay?
Yeah.
One is being responsible, right?
Always.
As the effective leader.
Yes.
Because it's the invested money that you want to treat it even more than your own money, right?
Yes.
Number one. Number two is actually you need to dare to say no.
Because in every decision, you have to know how to prioritize.
Yeah.
You have to understand that there will always be trade-offs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in the real world. There will always be trade-offs.
Yeah. So let me just quickly summarize what an effective leader should do, okay? Learn from Michael, being patient and reflective, open to ideas. In your investment world, you actually need to be really accountable to your own decisions and dare to say no and be critical. So I think many people want to know what are things as an effective leader should not do. And that it would be great if you can share some of the experience from some of the founders that you met, that what made you not to invest in a company after all.
Well, I guess there's many things because when you looked into my past position, it's actually a Pan Asia fund.
Yeah.
So we covered different countries in Asia, and there would be a lot of cultural differences amongst these countries. So it's just difficult to say one set formula because even if it is in the same sector, if you place it in a different country, then the whole perspectives and the whole success formulas will change. So it has to be very fluid, and you have to assess or review the deal in its own context and by its own merit per se. I guess the don'ts would be, I would say, don't stop learning, don't be complacent, don't take things for granted, don't necessarily compromise, don't make promise you cannot keep, and make sure you don't burn bridges necessarily. And the most important thing is, don't get mad, just stay focused and be professional. I think, that helps all these years how you deal with very difficult and turnaround situations.
Yeah. I felt those qualities that I saw from Miranda.
It's not only female, all across industry, it works.
Yeah, so I mean, I felt like Miranda really stick to what she believed in that effective leader should not do. But I remember that, I mean, people might join us because of like, hey, they want to know how to get funds. Okay, so they try not to do something that the someone like you will not invest in them. I remember the story from the North Asia
Yes.
founder story. Would you like to share a little bit more that person they have good products, but at the end because they chose not to do something, so you decide not to invest.
Oh, yeah, that's the story that I keep telling because I was back then the managing director of the fund, and I looked after, that specific industry and sector. And basically, when I walked into the room, first of all, I was being treated as the interpreter. And again, there are a lot of, cultural bias, stereotyping. And then every time when the owner speaks, he did not look at me. And I felt, uncomfortable. And at the end, he also refused to do the handshake. So that's quite taken aback. And of course, you can't change that person. And I have dealt with the situation whereby I say, okay, if that's the case, then I'll try it so that I would have another director within my team to speak to that person and try to liaise. But of course, we rejected the deal for different things.
Yeah.
But that has been, the first impression, that attitude, was very surprising back then.
Yeah. So I mean, there are lots of like companies they have been doing really good in the past, but when they come to the world, that they try to seek for collaboration,
Yeah.
right? And then, but it so happened that the fund was had by a female leader, and then in that cultural context, right? In that cultural context, that founder chose to behave in a way that they think is kind of like normal in their own country.
Yes.
But when you come to the world of international funding, I think one thing a founder should not do is they should not just stick to what they know, but they should be open up to what they don't know.
Yes.
Okay?
Definitely.
Time flies. It's almost 20 minutes.
Already.
So if I want Miranda to really share with the what we call the male dominant private equity world still, can you really share with them what are the potential benefits of having female leader in the team, and then how the private equity world can become even better with this diversity in representation?
I guess the first thing is it does not necessarily need to be so gender biased or and don't need to be over conscientious as to what your gender is when you play in the investment team game.
Yeah.
I guess it's important that you do your job and you do an outstanding job. And I'm sure because all by that, you would get the attention you need by its own merit. I have what I call the straight A's formula, being agile, assertive, adaptive, being to your highest potential and ability, and as well as being assertive and agile. So I guess the thing is you need to be truthful to yourself. No two leadership style will be the same. You have to find the right roles, the right type of leadership style that fits your character, and you are comfortable with it. It's almost like your DNA or your fingerprints. So in your career, try to explore what fits most, what you're best comfortable with, and at the same time enhance your knowledge base. And if you want to broaden that and form your own style, I guess read a lot, talk to people, talk to experts, talk to professionals, and get a sense of how you want to position yourself. And again, there's no fixed formula. It's very fluid. Always stay ahead the time, know the trend, know your story, know yourself well, and be very truthful to yourself.
Okay, so thank you so much for Miranda's like personal like experience, wisdoms, and then what I pick up from you is if we want the world in right now we call the male dominant like private equity world. Basically, we don't even ask for any like being equal, but we just want to be like seen based on merit.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So it's still the same system is what we believe the strict A formula that wins.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So thank you so much. I just want to quickly summarize what we talked about this morning, the linkage with situational leadership, and then we'll go to the Q&A session. Okay, yeah. Today, what really like amazed me is for someone experienced as Miranda, in our own language of situational leadership. She realized that there are certain tasks, what we call the readiness tool performer. That is, she might be like 60, 70%
Yes.
there in terms of the performance standard, but she has a motivation. She's willing to learn. That is how she can make herself become able and motivated and confident, like with the result being selected as the global fund head. Okay, so we encourage everyone that you don't know something actually is a good opportunity, right? So let's just all go into the Q&A because I'm sure there are already questions. Yeah, I also see the question here as well.
Yeah.
Let me just quickly ask, as a female leader, we actually need to look assertive, not look. Yeah, actually,
Okay.
we need to be assertive in the boardroom.
Yes.
Okay, but at the same time, because maybe we are more like sensitive about people's sentiments, so we also want to induce collaboration, inclusion in the boardroom. Okay, being assertive and being collaborative. How can you strike a balance in a boardroom, especially in sometimes the more male-dominant environment in the boardroom?
Um, I have quite a few situational occasions like this. In most circumstances, it involves in a deal, and in some circumstances, it's within the organization. I think sometimes it's just pure bias or intentionally just ignore ignorance. I would, in one extreme case, I can cite, I just remain silent, blank stare. I stand up and walk out.
Wow.
That is a very, very powerful signal, with your body posture and your act. And all of a sudden, the whole room, like, oh, what happened? Did I say something? So that's one very, very extreme case. And, you run into risk that you lost the deal, all right? So don't use it. I was just citing a very, very extreme case. In most circumstances, I would say over 95% of the time, taking a break. If you are in a really heated argument, take a break, a meal break, coffee break overnight, so that people can actually brood over the issues, try to find solutions, try to make compromises. As I said, every decision, it involves a trade-off. And you have to know what are the core things that you need and what are some of the things that, that are sidetracked and you can give up in a situation. And some of the times, if it's culturally not acceptable, I would have a male counterpart within my team to deliver the same message. Because you cannot change people overnight. And there is always a timetable that you need to do certain things. And rather than hung up and let yourself feel so negative in a situation and actually sever the relationship, you would rather twist it around and make sure that within the team, the balance, the good corp, bad corp, the male and female can actually complement each other. So that's the way how you tackle some of the more difficult situations.
So I can imagine if we were in a boardroom, how Miranda actually show her assertiveness because she's the one to assign a male team member to still say the same things. So the power is being reflected, okay,
Yeah.
by her authority. But she actually doesn't actually need to do what she thinks she prefers to do.
Sometimes, it's really target oriented or task oriented. And your position is to have a solution. You provide a solution. It doesn't matter it's you or your team or whatsoever. You have to be, I guess, more selfless, less selfish. And then you actually also need to groom successors. You might as well let them try and run the show.
Yeah. So I would say actually Miranda is always thinking about the what we say the greater good.
Yeah.
Okay. So whether you're male or female, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Because what the greater good is, that is what you are really seeking for. Okay. Yeah. One more questions. I see that there are a lot of emerging women leaders who might still trying to find their voice in the world of capital and strategy. What advice would you give for them to actually, to break that glass ceiling or anything that you'd like to share with them?
I guess, if you want to really get into private equity, venture capital, a couple of things, stay very alert. You have to be technical skills, you have to be in depth, but then all across the board, you have to be a very breadth in terms of your knowledge base. Make sure you have a good mentor. Make sure you build up your own investment strategy and thesis. Know what you're doing, believe, and have passion. Have that drive always on. Have a good circle of friends that if you feel bad about it because the rejection rate of your deals are so high that you have to dump all your negatives and get it out of your system. Get mentally and physically fit. Make sure you exercise regularly, and find at least one good sport and one good hobby that you enjoy. Because there are times that you need to step away, and then you can actually think clearer. If you continue to drill down into something, then you will get sucked in that whirlpool, and you'll get into a tunnel vision. And also, as I said, because it's still very male dominated. How I dealt with it, I started reading anything or talk to people about sports, about wines, whiskey, cars, watches, anything that Old Boy Network would be interested in, so that you would be able to comment and you would be able to have your own views on things.
Yeah.
So,
we try to create common grounds.
yes.
Okay. I am sure once people know who you are, and then you can say anything, you can talk anything, right?
Yeah, I remember, in the same North Asia country, when I first started doing deal sourcing in that. I told you the incident just now. And then after being looking after that market for about over 8 years, then I finally got the comment. Miranda is tough, but she's fair and reasonable. It's well earned.
So I think time really flies.
Yes.
And it already come to like 12:30, and then we very advanced time as well. Just to quickly wrap up today. So Miranda, what is the last piece of advice you would like to say to our young female professionals, and then so someday they can become you?
I guess again, be yourself. Treasure what you have. Don't over conscientiously think that because I can't do it because it's because of my gender. I think it will never be equal. You only need to optimize, and you always need to play up what would be your best skill sets, what would be the best part of your character.
Thank you so much, Miranda's advice. If I have to share what I learned from Miranda today is be persistent. You earn the recognition because of who you are.
Yes.
Okay? So that's all for today. I hope you enjoy our conversation so far, and see you next time. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.